And I cannot believe I'm saying it, and I'm not lying. This is the most surprised I've been by any of our homebrew projects. Utterly baffled, bemused, and delighted by that.
At the Craft Beer channel, we think the main thing stopping beer geeks giving homebrew a go is the time it takes to make a beer.
It would be a full day, it would be up to 2 weeks of fermentation and then another 2 weeks of bottle conditioning.
So last week, we challenged ourselves to brew a beer we could drink the very next day.
Now we can all remember where we were when the world's quickest beer was brewed.
Using some homebrew shortcuts for a Kvike New England Session IPA, we were pretty confident we could ferment, cold condition and carbonate a tasty beer in less than 36 hours.
Speed 3, booze control.
But as it turns out, that confidence was pretty wildly misplaced.
Right, some bad news, people. We've hit nearly 60 hours since this project began, nearly double what I was hoping it would take. So it's day number 3 and we hit final gravity. Oh, it's just gone up a point, that's reassuring. But final gravity was going to be 10-12 and we're at 10-13, although it was 10-12 just before I hit rolling, which is where I really wanted this to end up. We had a stuck fermentation. That figure, that gravity reading that I took of 10-19 yesterday morning, it didn't move from there for many, many hours. So last night I was doing everything that people do when they get a stuck fermentation. I was adding more nutrients. I was shaking, shaking the fermenter. I was getting as warm as I possibly could. I got it back up to 34, 35. And thankfully overnight it did start fermenting again. So we have hit a final gravity, but it took more than 48 hours, so that's the project ruined. And also the hops have been on there now, you know, for pushing 3 days. You wouldn't want to do that even with a double IPA. So I'm going to crash this, I'm going to keg it, I'm going to taste it. There might be some tweaks I want to make to the recipe, but I'm going to brew this again. And I've basically been naive. I've done what every home brewer does at the start of their journey, which is focus on the brew day and not on the fermentation. So reasons that I might have had that stuck fermentation, it might have flocculated out before it finished its job. There's not a lot I can do about that other than make sure it ferments faster. So I'm going to wait for some warmer weather and brew it again so that I don't have the drop in temperature. I'm going to inject a ton of oxygen in there. I'm going to double the amount of nutrients I add, even though I'd already doubled what you usually do. So quadruple the nutrients, loads more oxygen, keep the temperature as constant as I can, and we'll try again to get it under 36 hours. So currently, grain to glass in what's going to be about 62, not goddamn good enough.
Good morning, beer geeks. It is 10 to 10 in the morning on the 2nd of February, but more importantly, it is a balmy 9 degrees in England, which is the most important technical aspect to not getting a stuck fermentation this time. It's batch 2 brew day and I've made some other tweaks to the recipe to ensure we don't get stuck 12 hours in. I've reduced the mash temperature by 2 degrees to 68, get a bit more fermentable sugar in there. I have doubled the amount of yeast I'm going to be pitching and quadrupled the amount of yeast nutrient I'm going to be adding. The wonderful malt miller have sent me the reassuringly named Yeast Lightning, and I'm going to be adding, according to the back of pack, the same amount of nutrient that you'd add to a hectolitre of beer. 4 grams, basically a tablespoon, just under, to ensure that we get the healthiest fermentation. It's got all the food that it needs to chomp on. Otherwise, everything's going to be the same. Might stick a coat on this just to make sure. But yeah, this is batch 2 brew day, and hopefully in 36 hours, I'm having me a beer. Okay, so I've just pitched the yeast, the temperatures are right, the numbers were right, but I also thought that on the last brew. So now I'm going to add the hops in a couple of hours, and yeah, pray to the yeast gods, pray to John Travolta, whoever it is that can make this beer happen in 36 hours, because I'm desperate for a beer, I'm desperate for this to work, and I'm also desperate to not be constantly checking the temperatures every time I wake up in the morning. Okay, so it's 7:30 in the evening, so about 9 hours into the second ferment, and we have liftoff in a way that we did not have the first time.
Yeast lightning.
Now the temperature has dropped a little bit despite my coat, despite everything, but if it's going to continue at that speed, I don't think we're going to have an issue. So tomorrow morning I'm going to wake up, I'm going to have a little stretch, and I'm going to go, things are probably going to be okay. Crash cut. So we're 27 hours into this experiment, 27 of the 36, which means it's very nearly action time if I'm going to get this done in time. So I came in this morning and double checked on it, and it was still bubbling away really happily. So I didn't take a gravity measurement because I knew that meant it was still fermenting, it wasn't finished. So this is the first one I'm going to take. It's worth noting that when I came in the first time, it was not still bubbling, so we haven't had a stuck fermentation. Hopefully that's great, all thanks to this fat faced jacket. I tweeted them, they loved it, and obviously the incredible work of the Grandfather conical fermenter as well. So here we have it. I genuinely do not know what this is going to read. I have not pressed this. I've got the beer here, it's turned on, I've taken a sample, so here we go. It could have finished now, it has basically stopped bubbling. No, I'm not going to show you first, I need to know first. Holy... We're at 10:11. So an incredible twist. I actually have time to play with at this point. I've got 9 hours left before I want to be serving this beer to hit my 36-hour self-imposed deadline. So I'm going to give it another hour as like a final gravity check. Usually you leave it for a day to check on that, but I'm going to give it an hour, check that 10:11 is the finishing gravity. I'm going to crop off a bunch of yeast and hops because there's so much sediment in there, and then I'm going to cold crash it, hopefully for about 3 hours. That should give us some time to crash out all the worst of it, get rid of that, and then get it in the keg, shake, 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 and get it, well, it'll already be at 4 degrees, get it in the fridge, and at serving temperature and hopefully carbonated. So yeah, I'm having a beer tonight. I'm having a beer tonight that I brewed yesterday. The question is it gonna be any good? Okay, this is me for half an hour. Well, this has been a journey. When you're a YouTuber, you're constantly on the hunt for the unique, for exciting ideas, thumbnails, titles, content, and sometimes you come up with ideas that in the end just don't work. All along we were told by many experts that maybe this wasn't possible or maybe it wasn't a good idea. And with the experience I just had with the cold crash, just like pulling off endless pints of like slight trub but half beer, so it was really inefficient. I've had sleepless nights, very early mornings, so much research, never even knowing if this was going to work. And the proof is going to be in the pudding. So I've got a pint glass here from our friends at Zapato Brewing. It's a pint glass because I've earned a pint. We're not using the Craft Beer Channel one. And I have here the tap that goes to my brew fridge, which has the beer in it. I'm struggling to think if there's anything more to say, but I don't think there is. I think I just need to pour this and let you people know if it's possible to brew a decent beer in 36 hours. It is, sorry, I should just confirm with you. Just after 9 on the 3rd. So we're at just over 35 hours. So I've just about scraped in, and now we're pouring a pint. When it carbonated, I mean, there is nothing to suggest I've rushed this beer so far. Actually, it's getting hazier and hazier the more I pour, to be fair. But very, very hazy beer, but it is a New England style table beer. Let's give some creamier head. Well, that looks like a very, very respectable normal pint. Huh? You wouldn't blink twice if you were served that at the bar. Let's get the aroma. It's green. It's a very green smelling beer.
It's not onion, but it's got that kind of powdery, slightly oniony, I say it's not onion, it's slightly oniony aroma of a really, really fresh beer, just freshly dry hopped. But I mean, this was on the hops, what, 4 or 5 hours ago? It probably has a fair amount of hop matter still in it. There is lots of mango and citric fruit, lemony, lemon barley, mango. It smells pretty great. If I was served that in a bar, I'd be like, woo, maybe tomorrow this is going to taste good. But is it going to taste good today? Whoa. Yeah, okay. Well, f me. Right, let's start with the body. There's loads of body. The maltodextrin, the oats, the wheat have done their job. It's probably a little bit overcarbed, but still has lots of thickness to it. Glad I did the simple bit of water chemistry. I thought this was going to be really green and bitter, and it's really, really not. It was a modest dry hop, just shy of 7 grams per litre, but it comes across really quite well considering how green it is. There is a little tickle on my tongue, a little building tickle on my tongue, but it's not like acrid at the back. It's really quite crisp and refreshing. There's lots of tropic character to it, and there is a little bit of sort of boiled orange sweet, a little bit of sticky sweetness, which I think comes from the yeast. But it's not as much as I thought it would be, having fermented at around about 35. It's a 3% beer, people. And I can't get across how good it feels and how good it tastes. I guess all I can say is that with the amazing malt that we have these days, the incredible hops that we have at our fingertips, the incredible yeasts, the developments that have happened there, that we have dried Kvike yeasts, means it is entirely possible to make a decent little table beer in 36 hours. And I'm struggling here because not only does it mean that I have to relook at every brew I've ever done in terms of 20-minute mashes, 20-minute boils, all that kind of stuff, but it also means that I don't have to wait even 10 days for a beer. You should be doing this if you homebrew. If you want a quick beer, you can do it in 35 and a bit hours, and you can make it even better if you can wait 48, because then you can have a proper cold crash and not be as inefficient. And I cannot believe I'm saying it, I'm not lying, this is the most surprised I've been by any of our homebrew projects. Utterly baffled, bemused and delighted by that. All my cynicism from the start of this little take is gone. Everybody should be brewing 36 hours. God bless Kvike. Now, if you bear with me, I've got to apologise to a friend. Yeah, Chris, you know how I told you to f*** off?